All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Better. All right. Well, let me be the first to welcome y'all to the 2026 American Cochlear Implant Alliance Annual Conference here in one of my favorite cities on earth, Chicago. Chicago is a city that has never shied away from progress, success, and innovation. It's rebuilt itself from the ground up after the Great Fire of 1871, and with it introduced the first skyscraper. It has given the world food firsts, such as deep dish pizza, the Twinkie, and the brownie right down the street at the Palmer House. It gave us the world's first Ferris wheel at the 1893 World's Fair. DJ Frankie Knuckles introduced house music at the Warehouse. The birth of improvisational comedy at Second City, and a baseball team that made its fans wait 108 years for a World Series title. But I was there many, many days in the bleachers, and we showed up every year to cheer on our Cubs. There's something in the DNA of this city about persistence, resilience, and an unshakable belief that passionate people working together can create amazing things and change the course of history. And I'd like to think that spirit describes our organization fairly accurately. If you haven't had the chance to get outside, I encourage you to carve out some time over the next few days. Having spent 4 years here as a Northwestern undergrad, I can tell you this city has a lot to offer, although I would not go to the dive bars and the burrito joints. A walk along Magnificent Mile, a stroll by the lakefront, an afternoon in Millennium Park, or a cruise along the Chicago River. Chicago in the spring is genuinely beautiful. Although I will say, don't let Donna see you sneaking out, or she may channel her inner Al Capone and make you an offer you can't refuse. What a privilege it is to look out in this room and see so many of my friends and colleagues who share a common purpose and belief in our mission. Before we begin what promises to be an exceptional program, I want to take a few minutes to give some thanks. First, a tremendous thank you to our program committee here, as you can see, led so capably by Molly and Kevin. They put together a truly exceptional agenda. Please stop them in the hall and give them a thank you. I also want to recognize the local ACI Alliance members who promoted and ensured the smooth running of yesterday's early intervention workshop. Your work matters enormously to the families and professionals who depend on that kind of training. And to all of our speakers, presenters, panelists, and moderators, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are unquestionably the intellectual engine of this meeting, and I'm grateful for the work you have done and continue to do. I also want to extend a special recognition to our 3 cochlear implant manufacturers whose financial support and partnership have made this conference possible year after year. Your commitment to our alliance reflects a shared belief that collaboration between industry and clinical and research communities is essential to advancing our field. Each of our sponsors is hosting a breakfast symposium this week, and I want to strongly demand every one of you to attend. I know mornings are hard, but these sessions are generally worth it. There's great information, great conversation, the pastries are dry, and the coffee's average. Please make these a priority on your schedule. The AI drones will be taking attendance. Now, why are we all here? Well, this meeting stands for something. The American Cochlear Implant Alliance was built on 3 cornerstones: awareness, advocacy, and research. These pillars guide everything we do, from the policy work we pursue, to the science we present, to the conversations we have with our families navigating the path. This conference is where all 3 of those cornerstones come alive together in one place. One of the things I'm most proud about this gathering is who is in this room. If you look around, you see audiologists and surgeons, speech-language pathologists and psychologists, educators and researchers, policymakers, industry partners, advocates, and students. That diversity of perspective and discipline is not unintentional. In fact, it's our greatest strength. The complexity of hearing healthcare provision demands exactly that kind of group effort, and this meeting is designed to bring those voices together, not only to share our work, but to unify our goal. A few of this year's program themes place particular focus on optimizing clinical efficiency and programmatic growth while reducing socio-demographic access gaps. And that focus could not be timelier. You've heard from Charles Lim this morning that we are now operating in what Taylor Swift might call the highly challenging era in healthcare. Funding pressures are threatening our research, workforce strains are trimming the facility of our daily workflows, reimbursement uncertainties are leading to downscaling in our hospitals and clinics, and ambiguity in insurance coverage is leading to fear and trepidation among our patients. And all of these factors have found their way into our cochlear implant space in real and very consequential ways. You, as the professionals in this room, understand that better than anybody, and you are the ones best positioned to do something about it. That is why the research you conduct, the advocacy you champion, the clinical advancement you promote, and the care you provide to your patients matters so incredibly profoundly right now. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your enduring commitment to our patients and the families we serve. And in the spirit of this great city, that same Chicago spirit of progress, innovation, and success, let's carry that energy forward into this week and the year to come. It's going to be a great meeting. Let's get to work. Sorry, 8,000 things to do here this morning. So I now want to move into the part of the program that I consider the most meaningful of this morning. 13 years ago, the American Cochlear Implant Alliance was an idea, a vision that the cochlear implant community deserved a unified and passionate national voice, an organization that could bring together clinicians, researchers, industry, and advocates under one roof with one shared mission: to raise awareness of the incredible benefits of cochlear implant technology and to expand this access to all who might benefit from it. That idea needed somebody extraordinary to bring it to life, and it found that person in Donna Sorkin. As our founding executive director, Donna has been the heart, the brain, the backbone, frankly, every other organ in the body since its inception. And with her guidance and counsel of the founding board of directors, she built the ACIA from the ground up, establishing credibility with policymakers, forging partnerships that have continued more than a decade later to sustain our work, and ensuring that the patient's voice not only was never abandoned, but was placed front and center in the conversation. Under her leadership, the ACI Alliance grew into the respected and influential organization that exists today, and that does not happen by accident. It happens because of vision, tenacity, and an absolute and unwavering belief in the mission. After 13 years of that kind of leadership, Donna has decided that the time is right to pass the torch. And in the town that gave us the greatest professional basketball player of all time, just like Michael Jordan's last shot in 1998, she too is going out with her hand raised in follow-through after her career-winning shot. And while we respect and celebrate that decision, I think it's fair to say the words "thank you" feel entirely inadequate. So rather than leave it to me to try to sum that up, we've invited three amazing people who intimately know her work and her impact to share their reflections. Each of them is so incredibly accomplished that I will let them introduce themselves. What I will say is Terry Zolan, Carl White, and Teresa Caraway represent the breadth and depth of the community Donna has built, and the fact that they are here in person to honor her tells you everything you need to know about the regard in which she is held. Donna, on behalf of the entire ACI Alliance family, thank you very much. Please join me in welcoming our first speaker.
Good morning. It's such a pleasure and such an honor to honor my good friend and colleague, Donna Sorkin. There's so many things that I can say, and as co-founder with John Niparko, the three of us would traipse around and really work hard to get ACIA off the ground, and it was such a pleasure and such an honor to be part of that initial days with Donna. Donna is such an accomplished person even prior to ACIA, and when she and I first met, it was about 25 years ago, and it was before ACIA, and she's been executive director of AG Bell, of HLAA, which is now, which was Self-Help for Hard of Hearing. She was a vice president of consumer affairs at Cochlear. She's been on numerous boards, and she did get a degree at Harvard, and if I had a degree from Harvard, I'd want that posted on a slide about me too, so we put that up there. One of the things I love about Donna is her recognition of the value that research and advocacy brings to our field. It's so important. And I had such an amazing ability to collaborate with Donna. Very early in my career, she really demonstrated to me that how impactful the work that we do can be, and when we do good work, we need to share it, and it needs to be published. So we've attended lots of meetings together. We've given a lot of presentations, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done together, Donna. ACIA is so much more than this conference. I went to the website just to refresh myself, and I got a little overwhelmed. I could have stayed on that website for hours. So if you haven't visited it recently, please do. There's so many things, and please get involved because we need to continue to grow. One of the things that I did in preparing for this is I wanted to share this moment with others. And being a past member of the board, I recognize how impactful the relationship is with the chair of the board. And so I contacted each of them and said, please give me one word that represents Donna Sorkin to you, and then put that word in a sentence. It was kind of fun. There was a little bit of banter that went back and forth between the chairs and choosing the words. And Dr. Zeitler here chose steadfast. And he says, as our executive director, Donna has been a steadfast leader and advocate who has remained unwavering in her commitment to our mission. To us, she has been more than just a colleague. She has been a trusted guide, a tireless advocate, and a respected friend. Next, we heard from Andrea Warner-Sizz, and she used determined. Donna was determined to put cochlear implants on the map by improving awareness, accessibility, and advocacy across multiple avenues. Prior to that was Oliver Adunka, and he chose passionate. Donna's passionate dedication to cochlear implantation, noted in her own lived experience as a recipient, shaped ACIA into the patient-centered organization it is today, and that legacy will endure long after her remarkable tenure. Meredith chose the word fierce, and I'm proud of Meredith. She was our first female chair of ACIA, and she was very brave to take that step. And Meredith said that Donna was a fierce executive director, leading with unwavering determination and a bold, unapologetic commitment to her mission. Prior to that was Colin Driscoll. And I actually worked on the board with Colin, and he chose principled. When working with Donna, it was clear and deeply appreciated that she was guided by a principled commitment to patients with hearing loss. And then that brings me to our second chair, Craig Buchman. Now, Craig cheated a little bit. He gave me 4 words, but I didn't want to correct him, so we went with Craig's 4 words, unwavering advocate and champion. And his sentence was, Donna is an unwavering advocate and champion for the hearing loss and cochlear implant community. So the final and the very first chair was our colleague and friend, John Niparko. And I thought long and hard as to what word would John choose for Donna. And I wanted to choose a word that represents how I feel as well. So for John, I picked the word friend, because John and Donna had a very special and unique friendship, working relationship, and because of that friendship, that's what made ACIA get off the ground. So thank you, Donna, for your friendship, and as you finish your tenure, just look around at all the friends you've made in your time at ACIA, and thank you for all that you have done.
That may not work well. Can I use a hand mic? I'm a little taller than Donna is. So my name's Carl White, and I'm a professor at Utah State University and the director of the National Center for Hearing Assessment and Management. I first met Donna when she was the executive director of the Alexander Graham Bell Association. It was 1993. The Rhode Island Hearing Assessment Project, which I directed, had just demonstrated the value of universal newborn hearing screening. The National Consensus Development Panel had just recommended that all newborns be screened for hearing loss. As a young and naive researcher, I thought we had arrived in the promised land. I was excited about what was coming in the months and years ahead, but I didn't realize how completely oblivious I was to how much help and work was still needed. Even less did I understand how much of that help was bundled in this quiet, unassuming, barely 5-foot-tall person who had graciously welcomed me into her office. Even though I towered over her, she would quietly show me repeatedly over the coming years what a giant she was in terms of improving the lives of deaf and hard of hearing people. We recently celebrated the 25th anniversary of the National EDI Conference. As a part of that celebration, we recognized a small group of people as EDI heroes. Donna was at the top of that list. It is not an exaggeration to say we couldn't have done it without you, Donna. Helen Keller once said, "The world is moved along, not only by the mighty shoves of its heroes, but also by the aggregate of tiny pushes of each honest worker." Donna is one of those rare people who is both a hero and an honest worker. She has great ideas and endless energy, but she also gets down in the trenches and does the ordinary and often routine work that it takes to turn great ideas into accomplishments. She has an unusual ability to draw people in and make them a part of her fantastical dreams and schemes. It usually started with a phone call or an email from Donna with a simple request. Which states have the best EDI programs? What did you think of the recent article in Pediatrics? Can you be part of a panel at the upcoming ACIA conference? But what grew out of those brief conversations was huge. Better Medicaid and Medicare coverage for cochlear implants, reauthorization and continued appropriations for the EDI programs, improved materials for CI candidates and recipients. Of course, you haven't done it alone, Donna, and that is what makes you both a hero and an honest worker. Because of your determination, willingness to share credit, and ability to create collaborations, thousands of others are now engaged and will carry on the work you have been doing. Without you, I wouldn't be here today, and many others are in the same position. Because of you, ACIA has grown from a small group of do-gooders with nice ideas but little direction into a national force that has changed the world for the better. Your list of accomplishments is long, but even more important are the individual lives you have touched and the people you have inspired. Thank you. Thank you for your friendship, your heroic achievements, and your example as an honest worker. You will be greatly missed, but we are committed to carry out the work that you have started and that you have accomplished. Fare thee well, my friend.
There's nothing like having to bat cleanup batter. So thank you. It's so nice to be here and to be able to reflect on 13 years of leadership with you, Donna. And it's been quite a journey, and it's one that has had tremendous impact. So it's a humble pleasure to get to share this with you. But her impact has truly been extraordinary. And what leadership is all about You have to have thick skin because there's going to be criticism. You have to have resilience. You have to have courage. And you have to have determination to stay the course. And along the way, you have to convince other people that what they don't see yet can be made a reality if we work together. And that's what she's done with ACIA. ACIA was a concept. It was an idea. And as we searched for our first executive director, I don't know if we were lucky or blessed or both, or everything, when we landed on you, Donna, as our first executive director. So you have taken us from making the vision for the organization to a reality and beyond. But so I took the same kind of approach, Terry, that you did. We didn't talk about our talks. And I asked people, of members, what word would they describe Donna? And these were all the words that came up: advocate, resourceful, collaborative, strategist, determined, bold, access, never giving up. All of those words, driven, came up. But when I started thinking about all those words, I couldn't help but think, well, those words really describe a superhero. And so, Donna, you are our superhero. You are our champion, our crusader for cochlear implants. And we couldn't have asked for a better crusader and champion. But every superhero has a genesis, or the seed that plants the fire in their belly to really persevere and stay committed to the vision and to the cause of access, research, and advocacy. And I learned something, that Donna's genesis comes from her father. Her father had significant hearing loss. He wore analog hearing aids. He was an economist at the Department of Defense, and he loved his job, and he was effective in the Department of Defense. But at age 52, his hearing loss became so significant, he had to leave the job of his dreams, the job that he was pursuing, the job that he loved, and retire because he could no longer participate in the meetings and in the communication needs that were needed for him to do his job. And it was watching that transpire for him that lit her desire. We have to make access to technology, access to accommodations, access to reimbursement a reality for individuals of other loved ones, of other families. So Donna, thank you for that genesis. Thank you for being that champion for us. And along the way, one of the things I asked Donna is that, and if you know her well, she really was trained for this job as ACIA. And what I mean by that is she was trained because first she started, Terry mentioned her degree from Harvard in city and strategic planning. She worked with cities and counties and developed in helping them develop their strategic plans for the future. She had to collaborate with many people that had differing opinions and about what should happen to their city and state. And she brought them together to agree on the future for their individuals. She brought that into becoming the director of HLA, Hearing Loss Association for America, for Self-Help for Hard of Hearing, where she then began to work with adults and advocate for adults with hearing loss. Along that way, and she learned many things, she then became the executive director of AG Bell, where she caught the passion and grew and understood even more about the need and the opportunities to importance of supporting families, parents, and children who had hearing loss. And then along that way, she went and she became the vice president of Cochlear, of Consumer Affairs and Public Affairs at Cochlear Corporation. And there she learned all about FDA process, CMS, Medicaid reimbursement, beyond everything. And all of that rolls up into someday she was finally trained for us to hire her as the first executive director. So Donna, you know, we're here sitting in the city of Chicago, which is, we're in Barack Obama's backyard. And his quote, "We see the future not as something out of our control, but as something we can shape for the better through concerted and collective effort." And I think that describes you, Donna. Collective effort, collaborative effort in what you do. And I have a few pictures that she shared with me that I made her send me, but this is a picture of her when she was advocating for the passage of ADA. And who among us can say they have been in the Oval Office and have shaken hands with the President of the United States and being thanked for their advocacy work for the American with Disability Act? She has spent many hours on the Hill talking with senators, talking with House of Representatives, leaders, so that they would be informed about the needs of hearing health care, and that continues today. She's traveled all over the world. She's been in Geneva. She was guest in Japan. She was even on Japanese television. I'm not sure how that worked with the translation, but she was a celebrity there. She's also delivered a keynote address at the World Health Organization about the importance of hearing loss and serving and the needs of individuals and meeting those needs. But she also has a determination to hang out in preschool classrooms and early intervention. And here's a picture of her happily sharing and comparing her cochlear implant with a little boy, a preschooler's cochlear implant. And as Terry mentioned, there's so many publications that she has written along access for us to deepen our knowledge, to use to advocate to use in our advocacy efforts. And Carl mentioned she was recently named an Eddie Hero, but a true hero isn't measured by the size of her strength, but the strength of her heart. And I think that describes Donna to a T. But Donna's just not a superhero for any reason. She gets to hang out with the Incredible Hulk, and she even, you can see that they're quite good buddies, even though she slides and fits right under her arm. But Donna, you have made a superhero out of all of us, because I think one of the most brilliant things was your effort, your strategic organization and idea to create state champions. When the Affordable Health Care Act was in process, we had a problem in that cochlear implants weren't being covered, weren't being considered in the affordable health care. She organized our state champions. We now have 240 of them. She equipped them. She provides them support and education to talk to their local policymakers and as well as on the Hill, and that has been tremendously effective and had great impact in terms of accessibility and for reimbursement. So thank you for making superheroes out of all of us and letting us join the efforts and giving us that tools. But every superhero has to have a partner in crime, and Greg, that becomes you. You have been the silent hero, the person that's been at every single ACIA conference except for one. You're the one who in the very beginning, it was Donna, and you became her IT support, you became her errand person, you became her executive assistant, and you did more than we will probably ever know, including runs to the post office and runs to the bank to make deposits. So you have great adventures together. You travel the world, but you've also served ACA well. So you are definitely a dynamic duo that you share in partnership. But every hero has to have a cast that helps them, a family that stands behind them. And over here we have Colin and his wife Katie and her grandson Blake and her Olivia, her granddaughter. And you can tell poor Olivia, she is the second born. She's fairly new to the family, so there's no picture with her in it. So, but you can see here that even as they're sitting from little to big, sitting on the bench, they are still incognito wearing their glasses because superheroes have to stay sometimes incognito. But she raised a family of superheroes that have impacted the world, impacted ACIA for us, and I love it that Blake, you see yourself. You are growing up, and you too will be a superhero someday like your grandmother. So Donna, thank you. All of our best heroes are ordinary people who make themselves extraordinary, and you have done that for us as friends, as colleagues, and thank you for all your efforts to grow and build and stay the course to carry out the mission of ACIA. And we look forward to the future and build on the foundation that you're leaving with us with. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you to all three of you. Teresa, I may need to consult you about some AI use. That was pretty impressive. I'm sure you did. Donna, before we take the spotlight off of you, and I promise this won't take long because I know that you're not someone who enjoys, well, yeah, you do. You love the spotlight. I have a few gifts that I'd like to present to you on behalf of the ACI Alliance Board and the entire ACI Alliance family. Don't look yet, Donna. No, hands off. Because every great milestone, because a milestone as significant as this deserves to be celebrated properly now and for years to come, we have first got you and Greg engraved with your own initials a pair of champagne flutes, because the two of you have earned many proper toasts. And second, in case your grandchildren break those flutes, I present to you a vase engraved with a message from all of us to sit in your home as a reminder of the community you have built and the lives you've changed. You can read along, but it says, Donna Sorkin, Executive Director, ACI Alliance, 2013 to 2026, for 13 years of exceptional leadership and dedication to advancing the mission of the ACI Alliance and improving the lives of those with hearing loss, with gratitude and best wishes in your retirement. We hope that every time you look at it, you feel exactly what this room feels for you today. So on behalf of the Board of Directors and the tens of thousands of people who have worked with you over the years, I want to personally thank Donna for her extraordinary service and wish her every happiness and ongoing success in her next chapter. You'll be missed immensely, but never forgotten. This organization exists because of you, and it's been my honor to work with you these last 6 years. I've had the chance to stand on the shoulder of a giant, and now your podium for that giant, your podium step stool, can be officially retired. Please join me in one more round of what I hope to be a standing ovation of applause for our founding Executive Director, Donna Sorkin.
I hope I can speak. How grateful I am to have had the opportunity to work with giants like all of you, to have learned from you, worked with you, and shared your zeal for helping people. Here was a privilege I never expected when I took my first job in this field 33 years ago. I expected to go back to what I had been doing before. Teresa mentioned I was doing work with cities and counties, but here I am, over 3 decades later. Thank you, everyone, for that collaboration. I'm grateful also for having collaborated with thousands of people, those of you here today, and others from around the United States, and even the world. And we've done much, but there's still so much more to do. In the bit of time that I have this morning, I want to share 13 things we've done in 13 years. And of course, this isn't everything, but they're achievements that I'm proud of and which I think matter. We built an organization from scratch, uniting clinicians, scientists, educators, and others, parents and adults, and the founding board, which included John Niparko, Terry, Teresa, Craig Buchman, Renee Gifford, and others, led the charge. We expanded Medicare CI eligibility as our first major initiative so that bilateral coverage matched FDA criteria for older adults, moving CMS bilateral candidacy from 40 to 60%. That was a huge change. Terry, Craig, and John took this on without personal benefit, and our members supported it, providing patients to participate, collecting data, submitting input during the public comment period. We did it. We conducted a national awareness campaign leveraging the Medicare expansion and driving media coverage in hearing health and public media, including a New York Times feature story. We developed a research-based website with multidisciplinary appeal, which supplemented the recent acceptance of a Wikipedia page for the organization. Honestly, the initial website was a bit of a mess. Soon after I started, John Niparko and I developed our first fundraising letter, and it went out the week before Christmas. My son Colin, who is here, observed that this site did not support secure transactions. Advocacy is our mission, and it's part of my DNA. And our CI advocacy is internationally recognized for the breadth and depth of what we have taken on and accomplished via state, national, and private channels. We work especially hard at the ends of the age spectrum, infants and children and older adults, but also everyone in between. And we're already working hard on the ACI federal reauthorization and full funding for 2027. The State Champion Network was the first member-driven program that we began to provide a mechanism to conduct state-level advocacy and support national legislation. And I love that our 230 champs are comprised of many clinicians who had never done this kind of work before. And our champs met here in Chicago last night, and we encouraged each other to continue working on CI access. The Board of Directors commissioned 4 clinical guidance papers that were published in peer-reviewed journals and have been cited as an evidence-based guiding practice in children and adults with bilateral deafness and SSD. We promoted hearing options for children through conduct of research on outcomes and open discussion. Collaboration with others in the field has helped challenge the perspective of some groups that argue that all children with hearing loss need to learn sign language. With guidance from partners in the field, we created a visual framework summarizing the power of parents in promoting listening language and literacy as a continuum. That resource has been translated into 6 languages, shaping discussion worldwide. Special interest groups are member-driven efforts to provide focused discussion of topics on CI care with like-minded colleagues, and SIGs have now been created for adult oral rehabilitation, mentorship, members with hearing loss, educators of children, CI care within government services, and working with Spanish-speaking patients. In process is a SIG for parents who want to participate in our advocacy. The annual CI conference is the premier venue for discussing research and best practice for professionals across the care continuum, scientists and others. And it's also a place where at this meeting, 40% of you have never been to a CI meeting before. So you are now part of that effort. At this conference, my husband Greg and I are launching a new family fund to support early career professionals to attend the CI meeting, and Dr. Jill First was the first contributor, and we hope many of you will also participate. As our field matured, we made space to dialogue on collaborative care innovation, which has allowed candid discussion. And we carried out national and state advocacy to continue early intervention, detection, and intervention at the state and national levels, recognizing the critical importance of early intervention for children with hearing loss. We continue to meet in DC to support our members' efforts to connect with their legislators. In closing, I want to recognize the extraordinary support from my family, my husband, Greg, who has volunteered for us and encouraged me always, and our son, Colin, and his family, Katie, Blakey, and baby Olivia, who are all here and have been patient and supportive with me over the years. I'm honored by the opportunity that I've had to serve this unique, vibrant organization, and I'm grateful to all of you. Thank you for this fantastic partnership.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Donna. Greg, Katie, and Colin, thank you for loaning your mother-in-law, grandmother, wife to us. We are excited to put her back into circulation. Thank you also, Donna and Greg, for your incredible generosity with the Barry Sorkin Fund. It's an exciting way to promote getting more and more young people here as the rest of us get older and older. Okay, can we have the slide of the program committee back up? Possibly. It was the first slide in the deck. While we do that, it has been my pleasure this year as board chair. I sit in on the program committee meetings, and it's been my pleasure to watch Dr. Kevin Zahn and Molly Smeal, doctors Kevin Zahn and Molly Smeal, lead this group through what has turned out to be an incredible meeting. It could not have been done without the help of the program committee as well. And so for those who are in here, since the slide is not up, if you could just stand quickly and be recognized. And with that, I'd like to call up our organizers, Dr. Molly Smeal and Dr. Kevin Zahn.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you everybody for being here. I hope that looking at where we've come from and recognizing Donna and this organization gets us all very excited for the week ahead and looking at this conference program that we've put together. If we could get our slides back up. All right, we want to welcome you to Chicago. For some of you, like myself, this may be your first time here in Chicago, and my name is Molly Smeal, and I was honored to be one of the co-chairs for this year's conference, and I may be biased, but I think we put together a really great program that we're excited for you to see.
Tight squeeze over here. Hi everyone, welcome to Chicago. My name is Kevin Zahn. I'm an otologist at Northwestern Medicine. I direct the CI program there. It is also such a great honor to be part of this, and I want to welcome you to Chicago. Dan gave a little bit of a preview earlier, but we hope you get to enjoy the riverfront, maybe see the Bean, go to an art museum, see the lakefront. There's a lot of great restaurants in the city, and we just hope you have a wonderful time here. We're really excited about the program that we put together.
We need to swap. We are tight up here. Okay, so like I mentioned, Kevin and I were very fortunate to be co-chairs for this year's meeting, and it was really an honor to be able to help put this program together. And one thing that Kevin and I have in common, which may be obvious from looking at us, is we are both of the millennial generation, which I think a lot of times gets a bad reputation, right? We're sometimes seen as the lazy generation who doesn't really want to work very hard. We like to eat avocado toast and spend all of our money on iced coffee. And don't get me wrong, I love a nap and an iced coffee, but I think there's a lot of things about our generation that are really endearing too. We are the first generation that can remember very distinctly a time before and after some major technology. We have gone from coding our MySpace pages and creating the perfect song to using things like ChatGPT and Claude to help us improve clinic efficiency. And we even leverage ChatGPT and AI for this program and helping us put together different sessions and times. but we've seen that ChatGPT really transcends everybody, as we saw some beautiful AI-generated photos in this morning's talk. Donna had asked us to maybe add a little humor into this section, and so I thought, what better way than to ask ChatGPT to write an opening joke for me? And the best they could come up with is, I had a longer opening prepared, didn't want anything getting lost between here and your eardrums, which is a terrible joke. And so, although we know when to use and leverage technology, we also know when it's maybe time to put it aside.
Yeah, that's have our entire S&P 500 into that right there. So, it can only get better from here, I hope. Next slide. So, we're excited to, just going quickly over some of the program highlights. Very excited to have Dr. Craig Buchman here giving us our Niparko lecture. He's an incredible surgeon and scientist and a dear mentor of mine. Very honored that you are giving this talk. And then we're also excited about tomorrow, Professor James Robinson, who is a Nobel laureate at the University of Chicago in economics, and he's going to be talking about why proven technologies fail to spread, institutions' incentives in the case for hearing health.
And we also heard your feedback from the past years, and you may have noticed that in this session and in this conference, there are panels, and more panels. So we have some of our returning favorites, like the Stump the Experts panel on Friday, but there are also some new panels that we'd really encourage you to check out, like today, a Foundational and Advanced CI Programming Masterclass. And then on Saturday, a really kind of long list of great panels. And we wanted this to create engagement and give you things that are real clinical takeaways that you can leave here and go back to your clinic and do something differently, and something that you've learned from true experts in the field. So we hope that you enjoy having more panel opportunities at this conference this year.
And then here, we just wanted to highlight some of the themes of the conference. Going forward, I think these are some of the the things that impact us day to day and when we think about cochlear implants and research. And we're very grateful to have so many wonderful submissions. So you'll see these themes in our podium sessions, so please take part in those. We have some incredible breakfast symposiums, as we discussed earlier, the Rehab Connect Forum. We have a whole session on emerging technologies and initiatives, which will be really exciting. And of course, our poster highlight session, so don't forget to participate in that as well.
Like was already mentioned, we have a lot of special interest groups that are meeting throughout the week during lunchtime. So if these are something you're interested in participating, we cover a wide range of different options. And we were fortunate this year to also have a special interest group start about CI care and governmental services, which had previously been kind of underrepresented at this meeting. So we're really thankful to those that took the initiative to start that special interest group this year.
All right. It's been said before, but obviously a great amount of thanks to the Scientific Program Committee and the board liaison. This has been a wonderful process through this past year, and of course the program committee. This year we decided to revise a little bit of the abstract reviewing process, and that's been really tremendous. And so we wanted to thank all of the abstract reviewers. Their names are all listed in the booklets. They really help us keep the scientific program at the to be most relevant and the finest quality. So thank you to the abstract reviewers. Thank you to the session moderators. There's many session moderators throughout the entire program. Volunteered your time to be a part of this and keep things fresh for us. So many, many thanks to all.
All right, and lastly, we want to thank Donna and the ACI staff. I know I speak on behalf of Kevin and I when I say it was a real honor to serve in this role during Donna's last year as executive director of ACIA, and it was a pleasure to work with her, and we're really excited to see what the conference looks like as we move forward. And thank you to everyone who took the time to submit abstracts, put together research, offer to share what you're doing in your clinics. And for those of you who took the time to travel here to attend this meeting, we really hope that this week is a time of collaboration and partnership and learning, and that you can take something from this conference back to your clinic so we can continue advancing care to the technology that we all love and feel so passionate about. So thank you.
Thanks again, Molly and Kevin. And again, thank you all for everything you've done, whether it was review abstracts, submit papers, moderate sessions. Just a shameless plug, if you are interested in being part of the program committee in future meetings, please reach out to myself or Molly or Kevin. We would love to put your name down. You can progress through the channels of program committee and maybe someday stand up on the podium like these very handsome Gen Xers. Okay, Next, and certainly not least, I'd like to call up my very good friend and colleague, Dr. Jace Wolf, to introduce this year's ACI Alliance Lifetime Achievement Awardee, Dr. Teresa Caraway.
Good morning. I want to begin with three names: Michael Jackson, Pablo Picasso, and Teresa Caraway. Before today, you may have never connected the dots across those three names, but each of those individuals at a remarkably early age discovered their life's calling, and then they went on to change the world. Picasso reportedly could draw before he could talk. He was 14 when he was admitted to the prestigious Barcelona School of Fine Arts, and he went on to become arguably the most influential artist of the 20th century. Everybody knows Michael Jackson. He was 10 when he and the Jackson 5 signed a record deal with Motown, and he went on to become undisputedly the king of pop. Teresa Caraway decided that she wanted to become a speech-language pathologist, this is true, at 11 years of age. And I would propose that she went on to become the queen of listening and spoken language. And the only thing I'm regretting is that I didn't harness your AI skills to put you in a silver glove and have you moonwalk or do the Thriller dance across the screen here. But believe it or not, it's true. When she was in the 6th grade, a family friend started a speech and hearing program in a university in the local town where she lived. And that friend invited her to come up and observe therapy sessions. And she loved it. Her mom would bring her up frequently, and she would sit in the observation room where students sit, and she would watch therapy. And one day, she watched a session where the therapist worked with a toddler who had moderate hearing loss, and she was teaching that child to listen and talk. And she was hooked at that point. And really, from there on, the rest is history. Her first formal job as a speech-language pathologist was with the Oklahoma City Public Schools. And when she came out of school, they really tried hard to keep her there at the university with an assistant professor position. She was recruited to work at several different places. But her heart was with the Oklahoma City Public Schools because that school primarily served children who came from families with low incomes and limited resources. And she hoped to break down barriers and to give those children a chance to reach their full potential in life. And that really is a theme of her illustrious career. She may have doubted for a moment on her first day of the job at Oklahoma City Public Schools, which was in August in Oklahoma City. And she showed up and learned that the Oklahoma City Public Schools didn't have air conditioning. And that wasn't even the biggest challenge that she faced there. She, again, with her heart for children with hearing loss, she was tasked with serving the children who were deaf or hard of hearing. And at that time, there was a low ceiling oftentimes on how effectively those children could develop listening and spoken language skills because it predated cochlear implants. They just simply didn't have access to the sound that they needed to be able to learn how to listen and talk. In 1995, though, her career shifted into high gear when she connected with Dr. Stan Baker, who's a gifted cochlear implant surgeon in Oklahoma City. He approached Dr. Caraway to see if she would help him develop a rehab program to serve the children that he was hoping to be able to provide cochlear implants. And somewhat ironically, the first time that they met was on April 20th, 1995, which, if you're from Oklahoma, probably has some significance to you. April 19th, 1995, was when the Oklahoma City Federal Murrah building was bombed. It's to date still the deadliest domestic terror attack in the United States, and probably one of the darkest days in the history of the state of Oklahoma. They almost canceled their meeting, but they held it, and they made a commitment on that day that they would create something special that would exude light and hope from that point forward. Under the mentorship of Warren Estabrook, she became a certified auditory verbal therapist. And shortly after certification, she was approached by members of the board at Auditory Verbal International Organization, which at the time was the professional organization for auditory verbal therapists. And they asked her if she would sit on the board. And little did she know, the first board meeting, they asked her to serve as president of the organization. And she really resisted, but they were too persuasive. And at the end of that weekend, she indeed was the president of the Auditory Verbal International Organization, which was really a critical time in the profession. Auditory oral and auditory verbal therapy were really two separate professions at the time. And there was a need to unify those professions. And Teresa was largely charged with that task. And she was super instrumental in creating the A.G. Bell Listening and Spoken Language Academy. And at that point in time, that became the organization that represented auditory oral and auditory verbal therapy together, and still represents auditory verbal therapy and auditory verbal education to this date. Around that time, in 2003 to be exact, Teresa and her colleague and friend Joanna Smith and Dr. Baker founded Hearts for Hearing. And it was the foundation that she helped lay at Hearts for Hearing that really helped that develop into the center of excellence it is today. If you look at Hearts for Hearing, some of the best pediatric audiology and cochlear implant research in the world is happening today at Hearts for Hearing. And I think there's maybe not another place in the world that employs as many listening and spoken language specialists as what reside at Hearts for Hearing. So again, the impact of Teresa's touch on a really special foundation as well. In 2012, she joined the Oberkotter Foundation. She was tasked with creating Hearing First. She created a full digital ecosystem that provided resources and professional education opportunities, not just for professionals, for listening and spoken language specialists and audiologists, but for families as well. And I would say probably with her work at Hearts for Hearing and then at Hearing First, she has probably mentored, both directly and indirectly, more listening and spoken language specialists than anyone in the world. She truly, I think, is the matriarch of listening and spoken language. She is now the Chief Executive Officer at the Oberkotter Foundation and Hearing First, and continues to lead both of those organizations. She was a founding board member of ACIA, along with her co-founders, Craig Buchman, Terry Zwollen, Steve Reck, the late John Niparko. They were instrumental in establishing the organizational structure and governance of the Alliance. And she was also on the steering committee that hired our executive director, Donna Sorkin. So again, just a tremendous impact that Teresa has made on another great organization. But to end, I want to talk briefly about who Teresa is as a person, more than just as a professional. Last night we were at dinner, and I told a story that 30 years ago was when I first had the opportunity to work with Teresa. My wife at the time was a student in speech-language pathology, and she said, "Oh my gosh, you get to work with Teresa Caraway?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess so." And she said, "Oh wow." She said, "Well, she is kind of scary." And I said, "Why? Is she mean?" And she said, "No, it's because she's so friggin' smart." And after 30 years, I can attest that she's brilliant, but I can also attest that she's far from mean. In fact, she's one of the kindest persons that I've ever had the opportunity to work with. And I think in this day and age, kindness and the way that we treat people is more important than ever. And so I can't appreciate enough just how kind and exceptionally fair Teresa is. She recently moved to Texas, which is fitting because everything's bigger in Texas, except they can't beat Oklahoma in football very often. But she has a heart the size of Texas. And I think that it's her selfless heart for others, her colleagues, her coworkers, most importantly for children and their families, that has really been responsible for her professional success and the impact that she's had on the listening and spoken language profession, and also children with hearing loss. And so it's my humble honor to have known her and worked with her for the past 30 years, and I'm so proud of the fact that she's being recognized with this award. Teresa Caraway, today I have the privilege of presenting you with the well-deserved Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Cochlear Implant Alliance. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. Please sit down. Everyone needs a Jace Wolf in their life to be their cheerleader and supporter. You could not ask for a better colleague. But thank you to the ACIA Board of Directors and the ACI membership. This is indeed a very humbling honor because I look out in the crowd and what I see is that I truly stand in the shadow of giants who have carved out great pathways in our field and in our industry. So thank you for all your work. And I know we're running a little behind, so I'm going to keep it short. But I also want to say thank you. Lydia Denworth is here, as well as Cedric Pritchett, representing the Oberkotter Foundation as trustees. I could not ask for more supportive, strategic thinkers in terms of wanting to provide access and and make changes and improvements in the lives of little ones and their families. I want to say thank you. My sister made the trip here today to be here today. I could not ask for a better sister and a better best friend. So thank you, Michelle, for being here. And my two sons are here, Carson and Taylor, and they came to be here to celebrate. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being the wonderful young men you are. And I'm very privileged that I'm the only woman in the world who gets to call you my sons. But the most important thing is that the biggest heroes in all of the work we do, in my opinion, are the parents who have dared to dream that, yes, their child who is profoundly deaf will listen and talk and read and thrive just like their hearing peers. And there is no greater calling that we have than that opportunity. So thank you. I'm thrilled that call you my friends and colleagues and look forward to the conference ahead. Thank you.
I was wondering who those tall drinks of water were in the front row. All right, last but not least, I want to invite another one of my very dear friends and colleagues, Dr. Richard Gergel, who also is unanimously voted the nicest neurotologist on earth. There was no single dissenting vote. He's going to introduce our Niparko Memorial Lecturer speaker, Dr. Craig Buchman.
So just very quickly to remind those that may not be aware of the lecture, this was established to recognize John Niparko's enduring commitment to cochlear implant research and clinical care and honor his important contributions to the field. And we started this lecture shortly after Dr. Niparko died. And given his interest in the entire continuum of care, lectures have been drawn from scientists and physicians, audiologists, therapists, educators, psychologists, anyone who conducts research or is involved in the care of adults or children. And these are the lectures that have been done in the past, starting in 2017 and through 2025. So this is the most recent one, obviously, and we've really tried to mix it up in terms of the content and the individuals. So with that.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Gergel, and it is my honor to introduce Dr. Craig Buchman as the 2026 John Niparko Lecturer. Dr. Buchman is an internationally renowned surgeon scientist. He has served as the chair of the American Cochlear Implant Alliance and was a founding member of this organization. He's also served as the chair of the Joint Committee on Infant Hearing, the William House Cochlear Implant Study Group, and the Implantable Devices and Hearing Committees of the American Academy of Otolaryngology, as well as the president of the American Neurotology Society. As an avid researcher, Dr. Buchman has published over 250 peer-reviewed articles and has been a leading influence in expanding access to cochlear implantation for patients of all ages. 20 years ago, Dr. Buchman and his research team pioneered the use of electrocochleography in cochlear implantation. As an educator and leader, Dr. Buchman has trained over 200 residents and fellows in otolaryngology and neurotology, and from 2015 to 2025, he served as the Lindbergh Professor and Chair in the Department of Otolaryngology at Washington University in St. Louis. On a personal note, it has been a privilege to welcome Craig as a faculty member and colleague at the University of Utah, and I am inspired daily by his energy, talent, innovation, and commitment to advancing our field. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Craig Buchman as this year's Niparko Lecturer.
Cool, I didn't know you were the nicest neurotologist, but I would agree, my experience has been that is the case. So thanks, Richard, for a great introduction. A big thanks to the ACIA board, Kevin, Molly, the organizing committee for allowing me to give this talk. Funny as I was, funny as I was preparing to come here the other day, I was talking with my wife Liz, who many of you may know, and feeling pretty good about giving this talk. I said to her, did you ever in your wildest dreams think that they would ask me to give the John Niparko lecture at the ACIA? And she said, Craig, to be honest with you, you're not in my wildest dreams. So, in all seriousness, these are my disclosures. The R01 at the top is the one that's most related to this. John was a good friend. We interacted an awful lot, even right up to the days before he died. He was an amazing guy with a list of accomplishments that you can see here that are truly impressive. Two of my favorites I have there in bold was his work on the SEDACI study, which many of you know looked at 188 children across 6 different centers, and massive undertaking, the biggest NIH study from the NICD of its time, and a really weighty contribution for the field. His second accomplishment, which impacts all of us here, and is the reason that we're sitting here together with Terry Zwolin and many others, is the forming of this organization. As you may know, the thoughts of the day in the very early days was that we wanted to try and improve access for cochlear implants, similar to what the British Cochlear Implant Study Group was doing. We wanted to form a multidisciplinary organization that included all the stakeholders. And a thing that I haven't heard mentioned yet is we actually wanted to take the money that was being generated from cochlear implant meetings and use it for something good. Our early meetings were in Colorado and then again in Stockholm, and there were many logistical issues that were sorted by Robin Harding, who was a project leader at the time. And then we were fortunate to land our superhero, executive director, Donna Sorkin, which you've heard so much wonderful things about, and she truly was the energy and compassion to get this done. This is some of the founding board members. It's interesting that the list has sort of changed a little bit as you talk, because there were some people that sort of came in and went out, and it was a little bit helter-skelter in the early days, but I can tell you that this multidisciplinary group all had something to do with it. Let's see if I can advance this. Donna gave a great who's who of the accomplishments of those early years. My personal favorites were developing this organization for a community for us all to get together. There really wasn't a place for that prior to this. We expanded CMS criteria together with Terry and John and others, and that was a big undertaking. I personally think the State Champs program is going to be a long-lasting accomplishment of this organization, and the research grants really have been great. One of the key ones was Teddy McCracken's work to develop the CI2026. So now I'm going to switch to our first discussion of cochlear implants for the morning. So my topic is to predict performance in cochlear implantation, and I'm going to lean on a variety of work that we've done over many years. These are some of our collaborators, both at UNC as well as at WashU and Ohio State. Today I'm going to lean probably most heavily on the work that Amit Walia has done while I was at WashU, but I will touch on some of the work that we did in Chapel Hill as well. So why do we need to predict performance for cochlear implants? You might just say, listen, if they're a candidate, put it in and see what happens. And this is a slide that many have seen over the years from Laura Holden and Margot Skinner, Jill First, and the whole crew at WashU. And what you recognize this shows CNC word score on the y-axis and participants aligned by their performance on the x-axis. And what you recognize is that this is not a bell-shaped curve. In fact, while the mean is 62% CNC word score, there's very few patients that actually perform 62%. In fact, there's really wide variability. So when patients come in, it's very difficult to tell them how they're going to do. So why do we need to do this? We need to be able, to better counsel patient expectations in the shared decision-making process. We importantly need to identify underperformers so we can think about increasing the intervention that's necessary to allow them to achieve their optimal performance. And maybe most importantly, although it's not very flashy, is to segment the population of patients in clinical trials. You know, today when something new comes out, you always ask, is it better than what was previously out there? And because of the variation in performance, it's oftentimes difficult to tell. So we want to figure out the known variables, and then we can control for those as we look at new variables that come out. So this is one of the sort of the classic works at predicting performance that was done, by Diane Lazard and Blamey from Australia. They looked at 2,251 subjects, and you can see down the left there all of the variables that they looked at to try and predict performance. And what you recognize is that many of them were statistically significant, so many of them had an impact, but overall, these variables only accounted for about 22% of the variance. So there's a large part of the variance in performance that's essentially unexplained by the classic variables. More recently, Matt Hsu and our group at WashU looked at machine learning. Our hope was that would improve the prediction. And what Matt looked at was those same Lazard variables and looked at them using linear regression, which of course is what I just showed you, against XGBoost, which is one of the platforms used in machine learning. And while it's absolutely clear that machine learning outperformed the linear regression models, it actually was only minimally more predictive than what we see from that. So there still remains a large part of unexplained variability when it comes to predicting CNC word scores or even AZ bio scores in quiet. And I think this makes it really clear what's actually going on. Many of us know that duration of hearing loss or duration of severe to profound hearing loss is the common first terms that we use to communicate with about patients and families when it comes to trying to predict their performance. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to say from these two graphs that duration of hearing loss or duration of severe to profound hearing loss have essentially any effect on predicting outcome, at least in postlingual adults. And so I honestly believe we need to give up this characterization around duration of deafness and duration of severe to profound hearing loss, at least for postlinguals. So said another way, we can well define, as I said before, who a candidate is for a cochlear implant, but we really don't know how that patient will perform. And the reason is our current variables are just not very discriminating. So what does it take to be a top performer with a cochlear implant? As we all know, you need a good cochlear nerve. If you don't have a good nerve, you're not going to do well. It's the primary site of stimulation. You need a good brain, of course, to process that. You need a device that works well, both one that's built by industry but also configured by the audiologist. You need a surgeon that can put the device in the proper position. And residual hearing, we're learning more and more, has a huge impact on performance. This is the classic work from Kamakura and Nadal from Mass Ioneer, looking at temporal bone specimens, counting spiral ganglion cells, and relating it to CNC word scores. And as you can see here, there's really quite a good relationship between spiral ganglion cell counts and CNC word scores. So we feel pretty good that having a good nerve is hugely important. So what measures do we have to measure the so-called cochlear neural substrate or identify what a good nerve is? I think I just showed you that auditory and biographical data really don't do a very good job at discerning what's a good nerve. Electrophysiologic tests have been around for a very long time. Using promontory stimulation with or without ABR has not been super successful. Electrically evoked compound action potentials, which all of the manufacturers have in their devices, are in their current format are not are not well discerning for predicting performance. I'm going to talk a bit about ECOG, and then MRI. We know at least when there's an absent or not a well-seen cochlear nerve on MRI, it certainly is a bad sign for progress. So let's just talk a bit about ECOG. We started doing ECOG in 2007. We thought at that time that it would be useful for predicting performance, possibly useful for identifying changes in hearing during the electrode insertion process, and even mapping cochlear implants post-operatively. This is what the setup looked like back then, and I think what you can see is the sound tube going across the patient's face, and we would drape the sound tube out of the field and then make an incision behind the ear to do our work. You can see the electrode coming in on the picture below, which was actually a facial nerve stimulating electrode back in the day, but we used it to record from the round window. So currently today we can use the cochlear implant. This is the ground electrode from Cochlear's device placed on the round window to do recordings. These recordings can be done on the round window. They can be done from inside the round window, as you see in the top right. They can be done on the promontory or even done with the main electrode. What we basically do is stimulate with a variety of frequencies, and as you look from top to bottom, you see basically a response which is similar to the frequency of stimulation as you would expect. After a fast Fourier transformation, we can actually look and come up with an amplitude measure for each of those frequencies, and ultimately develop something called the round window electrocochleography total response. And so that's multiple frequency responses. The other way that we can do this is we can use the cochlear implant electrode to make measures inside the cochlea. As we play a frequency to the ear, we'll identify which electrode has the maximum amplitude response. As you would guess, the deepest electrodes have strong responses for low frequencies, and as you move more basal, you get stronger responses to higher frequencies. So this is what that looks like across the top. You see the various frequencies of stimulus, and down the left side, each of those rows is basically an electrode. So the top would be electrode 22, the next down would be electrode 20, and so on and so forth. We would identify those maximum responses, and then when we would add all those up, we would call this the best frequency ECOG total response. So that's what the intracochlear version looks like, and I'm going to show you bits and pieces of both of those. So a little bit about results. Here on the left, you can see round window ECOG total response. So this is in response to stimulation of the various frequencies recorded at the round window. What you see on the, that's on the x-axis, and on the y-axis you can see CNC word scores with a R squared of 0.44. So nearly 45% of the variance is explained by this single measure. Again, compare that to the Lazard, multiple Lazard variables that are in the 22% range. On the right side, you see best frequency ECOG total response, so that's using the intracochlear measures, and as you see here, even a better discerning correlation with an R squared of nearly 0.54, so 50% of the variance in cochlear implant performance can be explained by one measure, and our thoughts are this is a pretty good surrogate for cochlear neural health. So to say it again, ECOG total response explains more variation than all of the Lazard variables combined. So then the question becomes, how can we use this to go forward? I talked to you about segmenting the population. So now the question is, can you use this as a baseline and then add other variables on top of it to better predict performance? And so here, again, is the same sort of graph, and you'll see this over and over. On the X, you see the round window ECOG total response, and on the Y-axis, you see CNC word scores. And it has a similar relationship to what I showed you before. The red X's are actually patients that are above 85 years of age. So what this tells you is that despite the relationship is good there, there's something different about patients that are above 85 years of age that makes them poorer performers despite having the exact same cochlear health. And so ECOG total response alone is necessary but not sufficient for explaining CNC word scores. So then our question was, well, what about hearing and background noise? We know the elderly certainly have problems with that, and so we thought maybe we should add a cognitive screener to see if this helps. So here on the left, we're looking at AZ bio sentences in noise versus the best frequency total response. So again, think cochlear health on the x-axis and AZ Bio and noise on the y-axis. And what you see here is it doesn't explain things quite as well. If you add a MoCA score to that, you see MoCA accounts for about 20% of the variance. But if you put the two together, so now you're putting ECOG total response together with a MoCA score, you see that it can explain up to 50% of the variance in performance in background noise. So adding a cognitive screener to a cochlear health measure improved our correlation by nearly 30%. How about devices? Everyone's interested in what device is best. I'm not going to give you the answer here today, but I am going to allow you to think a little bit about it. Here is work from Michael Canfrada when I was from my time at UNC. And what you see here are the various devices across the x-axis and their CNC word scores. I think you'd be hard-pressed to say that one device actually performs better than the other. Maybe the Flex 24 is underperforming in this particular graph. Recognize that none of these patients have residual hearing. And so now if we use the same paradigm that I just showed you, on the x-axis is the total response measure, and on the y-axis is the CNC word score with a similar relationship. If you replot these to plot the residuals, the dotted line that's across the middle there in the center graph is basically patients that would perform at the expected level for their cochlear health. And so what you see on the left is the contour advanced patients basically outperforming their cochlear health measure. You see that the Flex 24 and Flex 28 patients are underperforming their cochlear health measure, but then you see the standard array patients performing at or better than their cochlear health measure. If you put these things together, so you take the total response as well as angular insertion depth in the device, you can see that we can explain up to 72% of the variance in performance for this group of patients in quiet. So adding these variables can improve our prediction or our correlation by nearly 30%. So I'm going to just mention electrode type. These are two groups of patients, both using the 6 series Cochlear device, one with a lateral wall array and one using a perimodiolar array. All the black dots are the perimodiolar array, and the green X's that you see there are lateral wall array. What you might say is, well, looks to me like the patients that are performing similarly can either, have similar cochlear health, can do really poorly or can do very, very good. But actually, if you take a close look at these patients, what you recognize is that those patients with good cochlear health that have a lateral wall array that's relatively short and have lost their residual hearing underperform by a long way, but those that use EAS outperform the entire group. So there are some generalizations to think about electrode choice, but when there is no residual hearing, it's probably good to be deep on the lateral wall or perimodiolar. And when residual hearing does exist, it does still have a decision-making dilemma. You can consider a short electrode, maybe less risk to residual hearing, but if you do lose residual hearing, of course, they're likely going to be a poor performer. Contrast that with a full electrode insertion, which probably has slightly greater risk of losing the residual hearing, but potentially better for performance. So the last thing I just want to mention is mapping and its relationship to performance. We can use ECOG, as I showed you, to identify the best frequency electrode, which you might say, well, why don't we place those frequencies at those electrodes? And so what you can see here is an ECOG-based map, which is the black dots, and you can compare that to Cochlear's default map for that individual patient. So I just put here for completeness, these are the curves for anatomic-based fitting, which is quite a bit apical to what we're talking about for this individual patient. But you can calculate the frequency to place mismatch between the ECOG map and the default map. If you plot that, and I'll show you here in a second, this is a group of patients, 30 some odd patients that we looked at. You can see, again, total response on the x-axis and CNC word scores on the y-axis with, again, similar sorts of performance. If you plot that mismatch on the x-axis versus CNC word score, what you recognize is that mismatches in the negative direction, which are in the apical direction, have patients performing worse, and when mismatches are in the positive direction, which is in the basal direction, they perform better. And this shows, again, that in a different way. But suffice to say, if we add mismatch 2, ECOG total response, we can account for about 62% of the variation. So to summarize here and start to wrap up, I hope I've convinced you that a cochlear health measure, at least using ECOG, can account for about 45 to 50% of the variance in performance in quiet among adult cochlear implant users. When we control for cochlear health, the addition of a cognitive screener improves our ability to estimate CNC word scores by about 10 to 15%. And when we look at AZ bio and noise, up to 25 to 30%. Angular insertion depth and perimodiolar location improves performance estimates in quiet of about 30%. Medallar proximity, which I didn't show you today, at least for the cochlear device using wrap factor, improves our performance estimates by about 10 to 15%. And then frequency to place mismatch also improves our ability to estimate performance by about 20%. Residual hearing is the one issue that we haven't actually studied quite as close yet, but residual hearing can cover up a lot of shortcomings for devices. So here in wrapping up, there are a variety of factors, of course, that impact patient performance. Importantly, this is a team sport, so the patient brings a certain amount of things to the table, of course, specifically cochlear health and their cognitive capacity. Surgeons have to place the device, industry has to give us a good device, and audiologists and speech pathologists have to do a great job of mapping that device and setting it up and helping us manage the patients. So with that being said, I'll wrap it up. Thanks so much for your attention. This is just a few of the people actually that have helped us over the years on this, and so a big thanks to them as well.
Thanks again, Dr. Buchman. I did not have the pleasure of knowing Dr. Niparko, but I know that he would be extremely honored that you did his legacy and his history here such an honorable job. So with that, I'd like to present you with the award for the Niparko lecture. Thanks again. Okay, well, we dug into your coffee time just a little bit, but I think we would all agree it was worth it this morning. Thank you all for attending this morning and the meeting in general, and we look forward to seeing you and hanging out for the rest of the weekend.
Turn back now, 'cause you take me back down that road that always seems to come right back around. Remember when we had dreams to fly away, but that was then. Now our story's just a page, like a wave you're always crashing into me, crashing into me. Days are harder than they used to be, and they used to be. No shooting stars can fix what we are, and what good's a lighthouse when the light chill in my bones when you say to me what you say to me. I thought I found home, but hidden underneath we were crumbling. No shooting stars can fix what we are. What good's a lighthouse when the light is burning out? And I feel what we were washing over me, questioning everything all the time. And I keep all the ways that you wanted me to be different, fresh in my mind. What you loved, what you wanted, what you held so high when we first met in hindsight were the things that you tried and asked me to change, as if I could do that. Like a wave, you're always crashing into me, crashing into me. And these days are harder than they used to be, and they used to be. No shooting stars can fix what we are. And what good's a lighthouse when the light is burning out?
She's wearing an old dress, walking it out, waiting for someone to turn her around. But she won't believe you when you fall down on your knees. She fell asleep, listening to my friends, talking on and on about how the world ends. Then she wakes up and climbs in my front seat. And she said, don't you wait to try it. Are you scared to find it? And do you wanna take my broken heart? Are you scared to start? Let's lay in the dead grass, stare at the stars, run away and live out of cars and bars. Let's just leave here, 'cause there's nothing left to see. And if that's wrong, let's make it right. And if you leave, just give me one more night, 'cause there's no one else you'll find that's quite like me. And she said, don't you wait to try it. Are you scared to find it? And do you wanna take my broken heart? Are you scared to start? You don't need a paycheck, don't need the rent. You can't take it all, 'cause it's already spent. We can burn out just as long as we burn bright. And she said, don't you wait to try it. Are you scared to find it? And do you wanna take my broken heart? And will you ever heal from all these scars? And did you ever take it all so far?
Around the table like it's Vegas. I'm like Charlie with these angels taking pictures, feeling famous. I feel so Kim and Chloe, ain't no Photoshop, but they'll be walking like a young Naomi. When I walk in, it's electric. Roll the carpet for me one more time. I'm like my, oh my, baby, this my kind of night. Flashing lights up on my birthday, feels like 90s paparazzi. I'm like my, oh my, baby, this my kind of night. Strangers dancing all around me, feels like straight out of a movie. Flashing lights up on my birthday, feels like 90s paparazzi.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. There's something about your eyes. Tell me this feeling's unusual. 'Cause feelings are so hard to fight. No, it's a little soon, maybe, but I go anywhere. You take me, no easy calling me, baby. We can all call us crazy. Let's get married in Vegas. We don't need a guest list. I don't wanna think too much. Let's get matching tattoos. I don't wanna think it through, baby. I'm so stupid in love, so stupid in love with you. I'm so stupid in love, so stupid in love with you. I'm so stupid in love.
You came, babe, I've been waiting for you all day. So lean my way and let me just take away all the pain. I know it's a bit soon for vows. Paper rings are good for now, but no, I'm already down the aisle. 'Cause I'm so stupid in love. Let's get married in Vegas. We don't need a guest list. I don't wanna think too much. Let's get matching tattoos. I don't wanna think it through, baby. I'm so stupid in love. Book a flight to Paris, only one way. What you think about sharing our last name? Let's get straight to I do. I don't wanna think it through, baby. I'm so stupid in love, so stupid in love with you. I'm so stupid in love, so stupid in love with you. I'm so stupid in love.
So tell me right now, before we calm down, can we make it work, baby? Let's find out. Tell me right now, before we calm down, can we make it work, baby? Let's find out. Let's get married in Vegas. We don't need a guest list. I don't wanna think too much. Let's get matching tattoos. I don't wanna think it through, baby. I'm so stupid in love. Book a flight to Paris, only one way.
What you think about sharing our last name? Let's get straight to I do. I don't wanna think it through, baby. I'm so stupid in love, so stupid in love with you. I'm so stupid in love, so stupid in love with you. I'm so stupid in love,
Stupid in love with you. Stupid in love with you. Stupid in love. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Darling, handle me with care, cover me in bubble wrap. I'm scared you really mean it, that you're never coming back. See your bag right by the stairs, I guess you already packed. No, I can't change your mind, but how could you just leave like that? I'm not ready to let you go, so just give me one more night. Hold me like you're still mine. Oh, love me for right now before you leave me. I know it's gonna hurt watching your footsteps start. So love me for right now before you leave me. Oh, love me yourself a fully broken heart. Won't you stay a little longer, even if it's all pretend? And maybe by the morning I'll be ready for the end. Oh, 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 oh. I'm not ready to let you go. So just give me one more night. Hold me like you're still mine. Oh, love me for right now before you leave me. I know it's gonna hurt watching your footsteps start. So love me for right now before you leave me. Oh, love me for right now before you leave me. Oh, love me for right now. Oh, got one foot out the door. Oh, 'cause you don't need me anymore. Oh, got one foot out the door. Oh, 'cause you don't need me anymore. You don't need me anymore. You don't need me anymore. Just give me one more night. Hold me like you're still mine. Oh, love me for right now before you leave me. I know it's gonna hurt watching your footsteps start. So love me for right now before you leave me. Oh, love me for right now before you leave me. Oh, love me for right now.
There was a time, there was magic in the air. In my mind, there are memories everywhere of you and me together. I thought it would last forever. There was a time, oh, there was a time I lost you, thought I had you, but you were never really mine. So I'm crying, yeah, I'm dying. You're not next to me tonight. If I could get that close, oh heaven night. And if I can get that close, oh, heaven only knows, I wouldn't be blue over you. I wouldn't be blue.
Red lights flash in the dark, 3 a.m. staying